Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Comic Shop Talk on the Late Night Chat Network. I'm your host, Nico, and joined with me today, as always, my co-host, Chris. How you doing, man?
Hey, not too bad. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Not too bad. Huge week today to talk about comics, guys. Unexpectedly, I think we are going to be seeing some of these. Hopefully, these a lot of series ending and some cuts coming up here, coming down the pipe. So, because there's a lot of new releases coming in the next few months that we've been talking about, a lot of new interesting things to talk about. But I did want to mention at the top of the show here that once again, late night collectors community, basically our spin-off their channel on YouTube that kind of had all of like the collector hobbyist type shows, including Comic Shop Talk. That we went from Late Night Chat Network, tried to go do that, and then we're back again. That is going to be basically ended after this episode. So if you were still subscribed over there, that YouTube channel will be shut down. I am thinking of starting an Instagram though, specifically for Comic Shop Talk related Instagram account. So stay tuned for that. That's probably where we'll be posting Comic Shop Talk, news and stuff like that, as well as the Late Night Chat Network. But the actual YouTube Late Night Collectors community, we're going to close that down. We're going to focus on Late Night Chat Network. So you're going to see all of our shows and all our playlists and stuff like that here on this YouTube channel. So if you were subscribed over there, make sure to subscribe to Late Night Chat Network, because after this week's that will be taken away. Okay, so I just wanted to put that out there at the top of the show. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel, as I just mentioned. This is where you can find all of our future episodes, and you can follow us on Instagram at Late Night Chat Network, and I'll announce if we do a Comic Shop Talk Instagram page. And new comics for the week of August 28th are what we are here talking about here today. 2/3 of the way through the year, Chris. We're coming up quick on this. I know, we're coming up quick on as the winter comes here, then the fall, and we're gonna be talking about, next thing you know, we're gonna be doing our Comic Shop Talk Awards, Chris. It's coming up. So these ratings are gonna mean something that we're giving out here today. It's gonna, this may be predicting some of the biggest books of the year coming up soon. And spoiler warning, guys, we are gonna be getting into what happens in the books here today, talking about what happened, and showing off some of the art. And so if you're worried about being spoiled, you can always read your books and then come back and then check us out. All right, Chris, that all being said,
All right, let's talk comics. Cheers.
cheers. Talk some comics. All right. Okay, first up on the docket here today, Aliens versus Avengers #1 by Jonathan Hickman and Esad Ribic, artist. Chris, I don't think you picked this one up. Are you regretting it? Are you regretting it?
I am. I might be looking for this one out there.
Yeah.
It was like, this one caught me totally by surprise.
Fantastic.
It was an excellent issue.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that Hickman was doing this. First of all, I thought this was, just some cross promo, baloney, whatever. They're going to be stuck on a spaceship and, just battle each other out. This thing just starts out with a bang. The whole world is freaking destroyed right off the bat. There's a last city standing. Then you get to see sort of, it's all these old men characters. You have like what old man Bruce Banner. I got Captain Marvel there. I think Miles Morales shows up, and you find out a lot of people are dead. Not too many people survived this alien, invasion. They kind of even, detail sort of how it took over the Earth in like, less than a week. It was just great stuff all around. The art, I thought, was just, it suited the vibe of this comic totally. And I think this is right up my alley, where it's that sort of dystopian future where everything's all out there, and anything can happen. This is not happening in sort of the canon storyline. So I thought this was just great.
Yeah, I totally agree with everything you just said. And as you mentioned, that is why I bought into this one, because of the creative team. This comic, for a licensed comic, even though Marvel owns the license for Aliens comics right now because they're owned by Disney, honestly, like the level of talent with Hickman and Esad Ribic on this book does not have to be this good. This is the thing. Like, it's just like it is, but it is. It's very, very well done. And I'm happy for it. And I've been super into Aliens lately, Chris, because that new Alien Romulus movie came out. I really, really enjoyed watching that movie. I went to see that a couple weeks ago when it came out that first week. It was great. and it kind of harkens back to the original Alien because it takes place in between Alien and Aliens, those original two really good movies in that series. And so like this comic was just really well timed in that regard too, and I'm sure that's why they put it out there. They finally had their first crossover. We've been seeing, obviously, we had Wolverine versus Predator, which didn't really pan out as well as we had hoped after the first issue. And then last week, like a week or two ago, they had the Benjamin Percy coming back again to the Predator thing with Black Panther, which I've yet to read. I don't know if that was going to be any better. But the good thing about this too that I really enjoyed was that it just integrated the alien stuff into the Marvel universe so well. It didn't try to change anything, I feel like,
Yeah.
about either franchise. He would just kind of looked at it, like you said, it was written like a hard sci-fi, like dystopian kind of future type of thing, where it was just like, yeah, how about if these aliens actually came and took over the Marvel universe? Like they talk about the history of the aliens, how fast they can actually spread. There was even like, like the robots here, the synthetics, like they killed one of them, like you had the white blood and stuff like that. It looks like milk, like from the alien movies. Like, and they talked about the face hugger aliens. They talk about
Well, and this stuff with Apocalypse here too, where he decides just to, I think all the mutants take off to Iraqi or something through the gates, and Apocalypse is, hey, this is my world, and survival of the fittest. If I'm the guy, then I'm the guy. If not, so be it.
Valeria Richards in the future there. They show a future Valeria Richards, which is great. The whole thing about the Hulk and the Captain Marvel, like being some of the few people still alive there in the future, and the ending with Miles Morales. How great is that? They reference the fact that there's symbiotes and aliens in this world, like the actual what do you call it, Xenomorphs, and that how it seems like they found that the symbiotes actually can take over the Xenomorphs, essentially, like they are the stronger of the two species, or when they clash together, they're the ones that come out on top. Like that was just because as soon as Miles got one of those in the face, and we don't know what's going to happen still. Something bad's going to probably happen to him still as a result of that. I just have a feeling that he literally has an alien attached to his chest in the form of the symbiote. But just what a great end to the issue. Like that shocked me, that part. And when it kind of reformed and it looks like an alien and the Spider-Man, like,
that's a great costume they got for him there.
And the art was great. Like you said, it had no right to be this good, but it was. And I'm so happy about this series. Honestly, I'm really excited for the next issue. I just finished this. I was like, wow. And this was the top of my stack this week, actually, because I'm like, you know what? I hope Hickman doesn't phone this one in. And he didn't. He brought it all, I feel like, for this. So you can tell that he's clearly a fan of the Alien franchise from reading this. Like he gets it.
Yeah.
Like, so, great issue. Great first issue. Honestly, I have nothing else. This scene here. Oh, man, this is great stuff. What'd you give this, Chris, out of 5?
4.25 easy.
I got to go 5 on this one. I loved it. That's how fantastic of the first issue it was for me. Just because, like, I think they just, like I said, they had no right to be this good, and it was. Yeah. And I can't wait for the next issue. The art was good, the writing was good, and he didn't go and try to change anything about the continuity of these things. This is just like a what if story if aliens were. Like, that's what I don't think I liked about the Predator Wolverine one. They were trying to make sense of Wolverine's history, Benjamin Percy, by inserting the Predator into his history, which I didn't enjoy. We were like, hey, these guys have been fighting for hundreds of years. And I was like, really? Like, because as far as we know, they haven't.
Yeah, I think we heard something about that if they're doing that,
Right, which, what this is like, again, this is a future, at least, where you're like, this may or may not occur. But it's not like they're taking it as this is fact, right? Like, so at least at this point in time. So we'll see what ends up happening. I just hope he doesn't drop the ball with the next one, because I
really looks good. Get some new heroes in there and see who's still around.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right. Next up, we got Gotham City Sirens #4. This isn't even the variant I ordered. I didn't even order this one. I was ordering because I've been getting those profile pics of like every character, and this.
The connecting covers.
Yeah, and this one's supposed to be the punchline one, and I don't even know if I'm gonna make a hassle about it because I hated this series. So, like, anyways, what'd you think of this last issue, Chris?
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I don't think the story of this whole series isn't too bad. It seems like a fun story, but that art just took me out of this one. Like, those faces they're making the whole time, like like everybody's surprised or their eyes are all whacked up. I don't know. Like maybe this art style, it's appreciated by some, but it was lost on me. But like that, like the stuff with the dumb bunny, I didn't mind those characters and sort of how they got around things. It was okay, like the story itself could have been plausible or decent, but I don't know. That just took everything away from me. This whole that whole art style they were using, it just lost. It was lost on me, and it was great characters too, But that's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe hate's a strong word, but this just didn't work for me. I was really hoping a lot more from this, and as a weekly event, like you said, the let's say the crappier of the two artists, who did the second issue, also did this issue, and then the other artist, who I thought was the better out of the two, although maybe not great either, was the first and third issue. So again, if you're going to put out a 4-issue weekly series, have that shit banked, or at least have
Yeah.
two artists that are better, or two artists that work well together, because this was not that. I really dislike this artist on this issue as well, as Chris just said. What was this name of this artist? Let's give credit. I don't want anybody gets confused with another art, because Matteo Lolli did issues 1 and 3, who I usually like Matteo Lolli, but although I don't know if that was their best work, that the one they put out there, but Daniel Hilliard, Brandt, and Stein. I don't know. So there you go. Those are the artists that did this issue, and I think issue 2, not great. A lot of flat face looking characters. I don't know. Like they really did bad looking faces, this artist, and yeah, like you said, the plot of this, the premise of this seemed like a fun idea of sorts with fun
We
characters.
have fun things going on, like whatever, like that poison ivy turning into a kaiju. That's okay, but
it just didn't
those
connect.
little small panels just take me right out of it.
Yeah, it just didn't connect for me. Even the story itself, I feel like wasn't great. So I like, it had a lot of promise, but it just didn't. Like I said, I was hoping that she was going to bring the extra, but then, you had Carlos Gomez on Exterminators. It was a monthly book. It wasn't a weekly event type of book. And maybe that's why they just didn't have time to properly write or draw this. I don't know. I don't know what to say here, but
Yeah, but like all this stuff here where they went down the rabbit hole or whatever they're going on there, I don't know. That was just crazy.
Yeah. So what did you give this out of 5?
I gotta give this a 3.
Same. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. 3 out of 5. I'd even give the whole series as a whole like 2.5 to 3 area.
Yeah.
Like it's not worth picking up. If you guys missed out on this event, or were smart enough like Chris not to buy the issues like I did, don't seek this out. I think there's better things. I would suggest, if you like Leah Williams, check out like we just said, Exterminators by her, because I think it's got a similar type of vibe with a bunch of women characters, but with way better art and just a way better story than this. So I think I was hoping for that here, but yeah, I couldn't get that here. Next up, we got Nemesis Rogues Gallery #2, Chris.
Yep, been loving Nemesis, and this issue here didn't disappoint either. I guess an origin sort of story, or a history of Nemesis kind of gathering a new protege, and I thought that was all interesting. I got the kind of him in jail there, and I guess it's Nemesis people kind of setting him up to escape, and then a few things get in his way there, so he has to improvise to get out of there. And just the brutality of this comic, it still is not holding back on anything.
No.
And yeah, I'm happy to keep on reading this one. It's another great issue.
I didn't love this issue. I don't know about this Rogues Gallery one. I thought the first issue, while ridiculous, was fun. This one I felt a little less so. There was a couple moments where I'm like, oh, come on. I mean, there was some.
Well, I like when the kid met the butler, I guess I don't know what to call her, his assistant or whatever. And she's like, yeah, great, another freaking person that's gonna treat me like trash, and I gotta wait on hand and foot. He's like, yeah, I got a lot of dirt on her. Don't worry about that.
The part that I did like, though, was the I found funny was when he got out of the prison, and he's basically taking this guy as his ward, his Robin, essentially, villain Robin, essentially, and he's training him. then he's like, "Are you ready to be trained for this? Do you agree to all this kind of stuff?" And he's like, "Oh man, I thought you was going to be like some weird sex dungeon
Oh,
thing or something like that." And he's like, oh, "Okay, now that you've agreed, great, we can get to having sex or whatever." And he's like, "What?" He's like, "I'm just joking, bud." Like, that was good because he thought he was being taken somewhere to be like raped or something. I don't know what he
no.
thought. And then he turns around and he makes a joke about it. And the guy's like, "Really?" And he's like, "No, I'm just joking. Don't worry about it." So that was good. I thought that was funny, but I don't know. It is ridiculous. I do think like just like the last book, I would say this would be better with a better suited artist. The art's okay. But I'm not having as much fun, I feel like, with this one as I did with the previous Nemesis installments, like Nemesis, the last Nemesis going into big game and all that. This is, I don't know, this is okay. I'm gonna read the whole thing, and it's
Yeah, he
not,
has no real enemy in this yet, has he?
no, because
Like,
in
he's just
this,
trying to get all his money back and kind of rebuild.
yeah,
Oh, but I guess they got that guy from the hospital. Why they would give this guy from the hospital superpowers? I'm sure there's enough people out there that don't like Nemesis to begin with. They don't want to give some rando guy some crazy powers. But
mhm.
anyways, that's
Yeah, so
that.
basically, as he mentions, I guess as a result of big game and talking about how people are starting super teams now, in this, he's like, we need to make a super team of bad guys, essentially. And that's what he's kind of setting out to do here. And as well as, like he said, get his money and his like name back out there, essentially. And he's taking over a new identity now in this issue. So it's not bad. I just think it's hard when we had the superstar artist that drew the last two, and this guy on this one, while it's okay, it's not that bad. It's not an artist I'm familiar with, and it doesn't look as good as those books. So I think the art is definitely playing a part in my enjoyment of it. It's okay. I just think there's a couple of moments in this where just too over the top, even for me, in terms of like what's going on in this book. What'd you give this?
I'm giving this an easy 4.
I go 3.25 on this one.
Oof! Wow.
Yeah, that's not a bad grading. I mean, I like the first issue a lot better than this one. This one just like whatever for me.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see what comes next. Void Rivals number 12.
Yep. Just I read this one too. Where like my read, I don't think I've been buying this Void Rivals. I missed the boat on that. I was thinking maybe jumping in, but we'll let it ride. But it's still a decent issue. They got the world going on there. They have the two leaders. They're kind of jawing at each other, and I think I got their names now. It's like Derek and Solara. No, I
Yeah,
forget what the girl's name is. Is it
yeah, I think
Solara?
I think that is her name. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Is that from Sacrificers? Anyways, they decide to split up because.
Oh, that is Sacrificers. You're right. Yeah.
But anyways, though the guy there, he has to go back to his people and kind of get them ready to find the people that are ready to reunite, I guess, with the other side of the planet. They're going on in there, so I think he's gonna still be traveling with what's his name, the Transformer there, and this voice of the original Transformer, or something supposed to be calling their head Zerda. So there's a lot of stuff going on, and I don't think this was a very impactful issue, but I didn't mind the story. You can just kind of see what's happening in the world.
Yeah, but it
But
did.
then when they did bump their heads together, it looks like something happened there too. That seems to be new.
Yeah. Yeah. The one guy's name is it Derek? Derek?
Yeah,
Yeah, and then the other one, I can't remember her name, but yeah, you know what though? It was like the end of the arc here in the sense like like you said, they tease some upcoming stuff and they are kind of, they are changing the status quo of kind of like the direction of a lot of the characters in this one. These two are trying to part ways. We do catch up with Proximus, which was her brother. That was that assassin guy that they
yeah,
sent out. That's part robot, android, part like human still. And he has a moment there where he goes back all banged up and he sees that they have like a kid prisoner, like a kid who was also put through the same stuff that he's been put through when he was a child as being part of this like alien race. So like he kind of relates to him in that sense, and then you got some great Skuxoid moments here. He's kind of still out there doing his thing, kind of like being a rogue type of dude there, kind of having dealings with a bunch of folks, and he got mixed in to being a part of this whole thing between the two races. Like he's kind of stuck in the middle of what's been happening with them and kind of been targeted as a result of that. Yeah, it's just it's a really good series, and it seems like Kirkman's writing the long game here in terms of a story between all these folks. But I got to say, like, he sprinkles in the he gives her the android in this issue, basically, which was a pretty big deal because that thing's really helpful. But yeah, I can't wait to see what happens in this book, because like he is definitely, I think, writing a longer form story here, but it's great character work, great moments, good art. It's a well done comic. Yeah, there's nothing to complain about here. Whenever he needs to sprinkle in some Transformers stuff, he does that too, right? Here's the moment you're referring to that they touch heads, and it looks like something opened up at some sort of void or something somewhere in space. And I'm guessing this is probably why they don't want them to figure out that these two people are able to, come together and do something. Maybe that's why these two people are at opposite ends of this war or whatever that's fabricated, right? So interesting stuff. What'd you give this?
3.75.
Yeah. 3.75 out of 5 for me too. All right, Chris, got a few here. You got Chasm, The Curse of Cain, #1.
Yeah, I just had some time in my head that it was up there on one of the sites there, so I gave it a quick read. Starts out with I guess Chasm and Hallows Eve. They're kind of just roaming the sewers, and they run into these kids that were looking for a rave, and those kids run into vermin down there for whatever reason. And then Chasm in there, and they kind of help these kids out by fighting the vermin. But I guess they're still bad people because they robbed the kids. Like he's like, like they're fighting them or whatever. I think it's whatever. Hallows Eve is sort of dealing with all the vermin, and then Chasm's like, "Okay, give me your money." And the kid's like, "What's going on here?" Because you charge for your services now. He goes, "Yeah, that's it. That's what we do now." Anyway, so I thought that was kind of funny that he robs them, and then and for whatever reason, Kane, I guess he's still on the hunt for Chasm or whatever, Ben Riley, just to kind of see what he's up to. I don't know why he's trying to track him down. And then there's another story going on that I guess one of the Eternals are there, I think, and he's sort of taken up base in the sewers as well, and he's kind of, I guess he's kicked Mole Man to the curb and taken over his base of operations, and somehow he's got some mind control over Chasm, and what that leads to, I don't know. It's not the greatest comic, but I was, I just see I haven't read much of this Ben Parker, or I don't know even what they call Kane or Scarlet Spider, whatever they want to call him.
Ben Riley.
Yeah, I guess they're all Ben Rileys. I don't know, but that wasn't a bad read. I'm not going to go run out and buy this because it was that great, but it kept my attention. I give it a 3.5.
Okay. Next up, we got Power Girl 12.
Yeah, I kind of gave this quick read, just checking out and see what's going on with Power Girl. So now she's dating an Asgardian somehow.
Oh.
And, yeah, and then he took her on a date to Asgard. So they're kind of just roaming around there, and he's showing her around. And I guess they're supposed to be falling in love. Why they fall in love there, I don't know. They don't seem to have too much chemistry going on, but it's kind of nice to see Asgard, or DC's take on Asgard. And supposedly he's sort of like a relic hunter, and that's what his job is, and that's how he sort of ended up running into Power Girl, because she had some artifacts that he was interested in, and then he was smitten by her, blah blah blah. And then they're in Asgard, and they just kind of have some fun stuff. So it kind of reminds you, it gives me the She-Hulk vibe, and now that She-Hulk's gone, it give me a little taste of that too. So nothing to go out and read, but it was a fun read nonetheless, and I give that a 3.5. And the art was good for this one too.
Oh yeah, Leah Williams, I think, is the writer of this as well, right? This Power Girl comic.
So.
I believe she is. Yeah, cool. Okay. And then lastly, here we got Marvel 85th Anniversary Special #1.
Yeah, I kind of gave this a quick read. I saw a few of the stories. Sick cover though, that's for sure.
Yeah,
and the way they went about this story was kind of weird. It takes place, I don't know, like thousands of years in the future. Somehow Wolverine, and there's a head of Deadpool. I'm not sure why they're there, but they're taking the humans on this tour, and there's basically all these artifacts that are left over, and they tell stories of I guess what they thought. The first one was a story with Marvel Girl, somehow they pair up with Galactus. But I've been taking a pass on Marvel Girl for a little while, so I
Ms.
kind of
Marvel.
or Ms. Marvel, sorry.
Yeah.
And I kind of passed on that story, but then I kind of caught up with the what's this X or not X-Men,
Excalibur.
Excalibur. Once again, I don't know why they put these stories out there. They weren't great stories. I think they move into their lighthouse and they think there's some ghost there, and the ghost turns out to be, I don't know, some other kind of mutant or that bends reality. And then at the end, you see a bit of a ghost that might have been there anyway. So the Spider-Man story was basically the one I wanted to read, and it was garbage too. So,
He busts
like,
out the
I think they were
dialogue.
supposed to take place. I don't know, when I was reading in some of like one of these little tiles that is supposed to kind of reimagination of something. They have cell phones. They're using tablets and all that, and that's about it. I thought the art was decent for it. But if you're gonna have one of these stories, why don't you throw some characters in there? Give some of these fans a bone to chew on there. Could have some Black Cat in there or something, or some Mary Jane, but nothing. The freaking car there or something. And what was the last story? I don't even remember what the last story was.
This one looks like a manga artist drew it. This issue.
Yeah,
This
this one wasn't.
this
It was a quick story. I forget
looked
who.
cool.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad from what I remember.
And judging by the name, it looks like it is like a Japanese artist of some sort. Because I looked on the credits on this one because I'm like, oh, this looks different. And I don't know if they are a manga artist or not, but they're definitely doing it in that style, right? So
yeah, the story had a good feel to it. I forget what it's all. I thought it was a Moon Knight story, actually.
yeah, it looks sick. He's got a fucking samurai sword or something.
Yeah. And I think like the big thing is when they were kind of talking about these stories, they weren't sort of exactly correct because I guess time sort of bends these stories. But
That
this one
looks
wasn't
sick.
too bad either.
Yeah, that
Had a
looks
pretty good
sick.
feel to it.
Then there's this one,
And then the
Contest of
final story
Champions.
was kind of that story running through. These aliens were supposed to take you to the black hole, and time was what was going on here.
This is drawn, I think, by Steve Scroce, who I'm a huge fan of. This is like a throwback to the Contest of Champions, it looks like, where they're
Yeah, I think that's what they're talking about. What happened to all the heroes? They just had them all freaking battling each other.
again, love the visuals on this. Steve
Yeah.
Scroce is a great artist. He's the one that did that Thing miniseries that I talked about on the show not too long ago, maybe last year or something. It came out.
Yeah, was that thing in Wolverine or something?
Well, it was the one where he teamed up with somebody every issue.
Oh yeah.
It was like a Marvel 2-in-1 type of story thing, essentially. But this is that's the care. Oh yeah, he drew the Watcher in that series, remember? And he looks like he drew like a version of him here. At least that's what the head looks like. I don't know if that's Nova or what's going on there, but that's I love his art. So I mean, I might even go back and read this one just because I like his stuff.
It's not a bad read to see what's going on there, but it was nothing of consequence. And that story where they're kind of the story that's running through the whole issue is whatever these aliens, or they think they're going to be pushing everybody whatever thousands of years in the future because they're close to a black hole. But I guess Wolverine and Deadpool had something to say about that. But overall, looking back, it looked like it was a bit better than it was, but it still wasn't great. I'd give it a 3.5.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of these anthologies, that's the case.
Yeah.
Right. Next up, you got Universal Monsters Frankenstein #1. This is written and drawn by Michael Walsh, of course, a creator I really enjoy. He did the Silver Coin series, which is kind of on hiatus right now, but that was, speaking of anthologies, that was a horror anthology book with different writers writing stories about this silver coin. And him drawing it all, though, which I think was kind of key in the consistency of that book, because he kind of worked with the artist and drew the whole thing. So he at least had a consistency on his art. I got to say, hands down, this is probably the best. This is the best of the Universal Monster books that have come out. I've bought and talked about every single one of them here on this show. I didn't enjoy the last two. I thought the Dracula one, which was the first one by James Tynion and his artist, that he works with on Department of Truth, although had good people on it, I feel like that was just okay. It didn't really interest me all too much. And then the last one, which was the Creature from the Black Lagoon that I talked about on here, I didn't really like. I just felt it was boring. This one, it definitely helps as being written and drawn by Michael Walsh, an artist that I really like. But it was a great issue. I mean, he kind of hit all the classic moments in this story that you know from the original Frankenstein. Oh, it's alive, that whole deal where he gets reanimated and he dug up a body from the graveyard. So while he still is running back some of the moments that people are familiar with from Frankenstein, and especially the film, he actually inserted like an interesting angle where it doesn't feel like he's changing much of the story, but it still has it's still focusing on different aspects of the story, and adding some stuff to it, but not in a way where I'm pissed off about it. Honestly, I think and I don't hold this as sacred as other stuff. We just talked about how even with the Aliens Avengers thing, it was important for him not to like kind of to take both things and kind of combine them together. This is basically in this opening scene when they dig up the body. This is from the perspective of the kid, I guess a kid who was the son of the guy that they dug up. He was going to visit his father in the graveyard. I guess he had passed away. He died. The person that he digs up, or one of the bodies that he digs up that he gets the parts for Frankenstein, is this kid's father. So he actually follows them back to his lab there where he's going to reanimate the dead and bring this guy back to life. And it turns out that he used the hands of Frankenstein are his father's, but that's it. Like he ends up sneaking into the castle like that he's working in, kind of watching what's going on behind the scenes. And and you have all these great shots, these great pages that Michael Walsh did of like his lab and everything else. And then he goes up to the body and he notices it's his father's hands, but there's all these discarded body parts that weren't used from his father and other bodies that he got from the graveyard, kind of just off to the side. So at the end of this, like he encounters Frankenstein, the monster, after he brings him Frankenstein's monster after he brings him to life. And he goes to like, he's startled by him at first, but then, Frankenstein isn't like a bad person, just misunderstood this monster, right? So, and then he goes to grab his hand and he notices that it's his father's hands, and he gets really saddened by this. So he goes to grab like a knife and he's going to run up behind the doctor and stab him in the back and kill him, this kid, for what he did to his father's corpse, essentially. Is and all of a sudden Igor or whatever comes up from behind him and grabs the kid, and he's like, no, you mustn't touch the doctor or whatever. And then that's where the issue ends. So I'm very interested to see what happens next. I think it's drawn great because it is Michael Walsh's art, who I'm a huge fan of, and I think it's an interesting angle that he kind of found within this old story, where he's not just redoing it. He is changing it slightly, but not to the point where he's changing the big moments or like the bones of the story itself. I think he's just finding ways to kind of insert different elements to make it a new kind of take on Frankenstein, while not forgetting the old stuff. So really, really interesting. And I look forward to the next issue. Easily the best out of all these so far. I'll give this a 4 out of 5 this week. Great stuff. Good issue. Next up, Drawing Blood number 5. Still really enjoying this comic. I'm liking that there's a couple of great books coming out from Image or other publishers that do a little bit more of indie type stories outside of the superhero stuff, where I'm just really enjoying spending the time in this world with these characters and kind of seeing the events that happen to them each issue. This book and one that we're going to be talking about later, Grommets, like these type of books, like I'm glad I have a couple of these books in my pull list, like things like this as a nice palate cleanser to all the superhero books we read. This is basically continuing this whole thing with Kevin Eastman, semi-autobiographical story. And this, he ends up talking to the cops that are asking about these Lithuanian people that are trying to kill him. And because his old partner ended up owing them a lot of money. So he has to meet with them in this issue about all that stuff going on, and he kind of denies everything. He ends up meeting back up with his business partners. He meets up with the new artist that he just hired, that he met at the con, Chris, that I was talking about, that was embarrassed and talked all this trash about him. And then he turned out it was him. He had a mask on at the con, and he hired her to come work for his company because he was kind of inspired by her work and reminded her of himself in his early days. And then he ends up getting high and getting on a plane in this one. And basically he's going to Hollywood. He's going to Hollywood, and he has to go visit the set of the movie that they're working on right now based on these characters. So he went from the con to Hollywood, and this is creators like Kevin Eastman in the heyday of the Ninja Turtles, this is big business that he was probably involved in. So it's kind of interesting. Also, he goes to visit his ex-wife that is currently shooting a porn that is based on his creation.
Oh,
In this one as well. So he goes to see her. And she dresses up in a costume that's like one of his characters on the porn set, because he was told that he has to go like get her not to do this because it's bad press for the for the characters and for the movie that's coming out soon, right? So which she disagrees with. So yeah, he ends up at the end of this issue showing up on the set, and everything looks like to be like in a big disarray. So I don't know what's gonna happen there with the movie, but it's fun. It's fun seeing the adventures of of a Kevin Eastman type character in this story. And we're about almost halfway through. This is the fifth issue. I think it's 12 issue story. So it's been good. I definitely would pick up the collection of this when it's all collected. I give this a 4 out of 5 as well. Then next up, we got Archie the Decision, a one-shot story that's written by Tom King and classic Archie artist Dan Parent. This is just a nice little one-off. I don't have the art for this one that Tom King wrote. He's a huge fan of Archie, and I heard him talking about this on a podcast, and of course, also had read a lot of Archie with his kids. So I think he kind of reached out, knowing the people that run that company, being like, "Hey, will you let me write an Archie comic?" And that's kind of this is the result of that. So, it's kind of like a gimmicky thing where they brought a big writer on that doesn't normally write Archie to do this. And this issue was set out to solve the age-old question, Chris. Who does he pick, Betty or Veronica? And does
spoiler alert, or what's going on?
Spoiler alert, he doesn't pick one.
I knew it.
Yeah, like you said, it was a gimmick all the way. And yeah, you're kind of saying last episode, you're like, oh, you got hosed. You shouldn't have bought that. It's not going to do that. And so basically in this, he flips a coin in the end because he can't decide. Jughead sitting there he's sitting there looking at two pictures between Betty and Veronica at the start, which is like any man's dream. That's the funniest thing about Archie. He's like, he has two fucking bombshell women that are like looking to date him, and he can't decide which one. So he does end up dating both of them, or he dates both of them. And he's sitting there, and then at the same time, Jughead is sitting there trying to decide between a picture of two different burgers. It's like cheeseburger or regular burger. He's like, he's trying to figure it out. So then Jughead throws out the idea, why, if you can't decide, why don't you just let fate decide? Why don't you just flip a coin? So he's like, okay, yeah, sure, I'll do that. So he flips the coin. Of course, the coin rolls away and goes, and it like bounces around the whole city of Riverdale. And while this is happening, you're checking in, and Tom King got to basically write like all the Archie characters, because you're checking in with everybody hearing about this news throughout Riverdale, because it's a small town and news spreads like this, that Archie's going to be deciding, and a lot of people are calling him a dirtbag because he's deciding by flipping a coin. They're like, how dare he, blah blah blah. So of course all the Archie characters come together at the end, and they're all waiting as the coin falls on one side, and they're going to hear his decision. And then something happens, and I won't say what, and basically he never finds out who he is going to decide on. I think Betty and Veronica get so pissed at him by the end of this, they basically are forcing him both to take them out on a date and separately. And Archie, that the age-old question lives on essentially by the end of this. I give it a 3.5. It was a fine Archie comic. It was good for a one-off read. It wasn't anything spectacular, but it did feel like an Archie comic. I'll say that. So he got the tone right. Next up, I got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Black, White, and Green, number 4. I think this is the last issue of this anthology series. Not much to say on this. As always with anthologies, not huge on them, but they sometimes get me to buy in based on the creative teams involved. And that's the biggest highlight about this series, has been the good artists that you got to see work on this that probably have never drawn the Turtles. And the first 3 stories in this, we're fine. Nothing bad to say there. Lee Garbett drew this first one, which was good. The next 2, I'm less familiar with the artists. They're okay. But the highlight of this issue, and the main reason I wanted to talk about this, is the last story. So I'm just going to flip through some of the art in the first couple here, and then we're going to get to that. Patrick Gleason drew the last story in this. And man, this makes me wish Patrick Gleason was an ongoing artist in this new Ninja Turtle series that they're doing now with Jason Aaron. I don't know if he plans on doing it at some point. Maybe Jason Aaron, I'm hoping, seen this and he's going to try to get him to draw some issues. I don't know what's going on there, because I know Patrick Gleason's been doing a lot of stuff with Spidey and Marvel and stuff like that lately, and working for other publishers other than DC is for the first time that I've ever seen. But look at these pages, man. Like, this is him here. This is Patrick Gleason. What a fantastic fucking Turtles he would draw. Honestly, I love seeing this. His Shredder looked awesome. His Splinter here. And look at that. Like, great stuff. Patrick Gleason is a great artist, and I just hope he comes back and draws the Turtles more full time, because this little 6 pages or 8 pages or whatever that he drew here was just not enough. So I'll give this a 3.5 though, based on the stories, but the art definitely elevated that. So I gotta say though, I want Gleason on a Ninja Turtles book now.
I might have to take a look at that just for that.
Yeah.
There's also another story. Oh, sorry, go on.
Sorry, no, what were we gonna say?
There's another story or another comic I read. I forgot to mention there, the Venom War Symbiotes.
Okay,
That I
how was
wanted
that?
to mention. And it was, I kind of read this on a flyer too. I wasn't too interested in what's going on with that. But, when I opened up the comic, I was kind of pleasantly surprised. The characters involved with She-Hulk, Hellcat, Shocker, Speed Demon, and another villain. And basically the zombies, or the Symbiotes, or whatever they call them, they're running around the New York City like zombies.
Right.
And She-Hulk and Hellcat are sort of fighting them. And at the same time, Shocker and 2 of the other kind of Sinister Six, they're planning on a heist. They're just getting back together again after a while off. It sounds like Boomerang died a while back. And, as he died, he kind of challenged them all to be better people. And, but anyways, I guess they're planning on robbing a truck. So anyways, and then, their worlds sort of collide, and these zombiotes are everywhere. And so it ends up being She-Hulk, Shocker, and one of the other Sinister Six guys kind of fighting the Horde, as the Speed Demon and Hellcat have been turned. So it was a fun read. It doesn't have really much to go with what's going on with this Venom War. I don't know where all these zombiotes came from or what they have to do with the Venom War, but it was a fun story nonetheless, and I was surprised with the characters he uses. And I think it's being told from Shocker's point of view too. So that's always nice. I haven't seen Shocker in a while, and I think they use him pretty well in this too. So
I like Shocker.
It was a surprising story. I give it a 3.5.
Sounds like a fun spinoff, actually. I might have to check that
Yeah.
out. Yeah. Is this the first issue this week, or?
Yeah, I think it's first of 3, maybe.
Okay. Pretty cool. Yeah, check that out. I might have to check that out. But yeah, definitely, I think it's worth reading if you're interested in the Gleason art in this. It's like a 6 or 8 page type story in this issue, right? The number 4. So yeah, definitely worth checking out that too. And then lastly, I got Batman Dark Age number 5. Great Chris Burnham cover of him falling in a vat of acid. It looks like Batman. I really like the cover for this one. This is the variant, and it's like Ra's al Ghul. It's like the pool, the rejuvenation pool, the Lazarus pit, but yet it's a vat of acid. So I don't know what's going on there. So that was kind of cool. This is the regular cover here by what's his name there, Mike Allred. So yeah, this is, I think, one more issue to go. And yeah, this is basically just seeing us through here to the end. We're finally, he's figuring out who the bad guys are here in this story. Ra's al Ghul, he's been up to stuff behind the scenes that he's just finding out here in this issue. And he's kind of identified that he's the one that he ends up having to take down now, who's someone from his past who actually trained him in the army, as I mentioned in this story, because this is like a weird Elseworlds type story that they're telling in this story. And yeah, he goes to the Justice League for help in this, because like he's kind of made havoc of his life, and this is like early days of Batman here in this story. And in Superman Space Age, the other one that I much enjoyed by the same team, it kind of follows up with some of the stuff that happened in that series, because they just formed the Justice League in that. And in this, he kind of goes back to the Justice League and kind of asks them for help. And they kind of follow up on the thing that happened in Superman Space Age, where Superman had just said, "Hey, Batman, I'm sorry, we don't have any time for that kind of stuff right now, unfortunately, because we need to focus on the fact that there's a crisis coming. And this person came to me, and they're talking about Crisis on Infinite Earths, and which happened in Superman Space Age." And by the end of that, the crisis happens and everything's kind of like brought back and, reset like DC does, right? But it's kind of like a commentary on the event itself, right, within the pages of that book. So he talks about it in this, and he's like, all this isn't going to matter in some time. So, we understand you need our help for this, but like we need to focus on this whole crisis event and what's going to happen there. So Batman goes back and he ends up teaming up with Catwoman and Robin, and he's just basically trying to get to the bottom of like the people that have been that took over his company, the evil kind of bad guys there that have done that, as well as Ra's al Ghul. And again, he's kind of talking about all this from the old age home in the future where he's old, and he's kind of recounting all these things through his life. You get to see Penguin in this, and so yeah, we're closing in on the ending here. We got one more issue to go. While this still isn't my favorite Batman story by far, it is an interesting Elseworld type Batman story with good creators behind it. So I'll give this issue a 3.5 out of 5. It's not as good as Superman Space Age, which I've mentioned with the same team many times on the show here, though. I think that's the better out of the two. Batman Off-World number 5, Chris. Finally, months later. I think it's the penultimate issue. I think 6 is the last issue of this miniseries of Batman in space. What did you think of this?
I think I can see why it took so long. Freaking, who's it? Jason Aaron writing this? Can
He
this guy
wrote
leave a panel? Who's writing this?
Jason Aaron's writing it, but Doug Mahnke is the artist, who I believe is probably the reason why it took that long, is the artist on this.
I don't know. It could be all the freaking words in this one, I think, if I remember this correctly. Holy smokes. Can this guy leave a panel blank or what? There's just so much freaking commentary going on, especially in the first pages. Like, you could have wrote some of this stuff in like one sentence and blah, 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 blah. That just took me right out of it, it was a nice battle there, the story that's going on. I guess Batman's trying to track down all these, I guess the Black Sun twins or something like that. And then you find out that these people have freaking like destroyed a planet because of what Batman's doing there. How can he have that on his conscience that they killed billions of people on him?
Yeah.
Because of him, like that's a little tough pill to swallow there. And so that's a bit of a deep thought to take you into the night, I guess. But yeah, I think the art is great for this still.
Yeah.
And I guess as a penultimate issue, you do find Batman in dire straits right at the end. So we'll see where things go from there.
Yeah, I definitely didn't feel the wordiness on this. I'll take you at your word on that one. But yeah, I can see there was a lot of dialogue in this one, just looking over even some of the art here. So yeah, you're probably right. But I think that I will say it did affect some of my enjoyment as a result of having to wait so long for this issue, because I felt like this was a series that was getting better each and every issue, and kind of obviously he had a good story in mind, because like you said, where they left things at the end of this issue was very interesting. Is the Tanneranian there, whatever name the alien species is there, like the Starfire person, like she basically turns her back on him at the end of this, and gives him into the Empress or whatever, this person that's basically been wreaking havoc across the planets, and doesn't look good for him at the end of this. But Doug Mahnke, if he was the reason why this took so long, at least it didn't look rushed. The art did look fantastic in this issue, so I guess it was worth the wait in that regard. I think it's still going to make a nice collection. I'm looking forward to the end of this series, but I did lose a little bit of the steam, I feel like, going into this one, because I had to remember where we were at. At the end of the last issue, he just got beat up by that dude.
By the Hawkman guy.
Yeah.
The Thangarian.
Thanagarian, yeah, that's his name. Tamaranian Thanagarian, yeah, that's the Thanagarian, yeah, that's what his name was. So that was such a crazy moment. So like at the start of this, he doesn't even know where he's at. So I kind of thought that made sense. Like maybe, I don't know if he did that on purpose because it took so long. Hey, let's bring the readers back in and they'll be confused. Like, where is this dude? Because that's kind of how he woke up. He's like, oh, what just hit me? What's going on? Am I on Earth? You know what I mean? This guy just beat the shit out of him. I will say the stakes though for Batman, like you said, with all those billions that got killed in this universe here and in space, they are pretty freaking high in this story. I'll say that he's gonna step away from this experience. Obviously, like I can see this is because this is early days of Batman in this, right? Like I can see why, like stuff that he's been through are pretty horrible in this story. So, what'd you give this, Chris?
I'll give it a 3.75.
Same. Yep, 3.75 out of 5. Next up, we got Zatanna Bring Down the House #3. Got this great Terry Dodson cover here. It kind of looks like an old school poster or something by a magician. Really cool. What'd you think of this, Chris?
I thought this was okay. Once again, this art style isn't for me, but it's growing on me. And it was kind of a bit of a wacky issue with the
Yeah.
rabbit friend there, or whoever the rabbit shows up, and they kind of go into the history of magic, and I guess the history of Zatanna's father. It was kind of slowing me down, let's say, or dragging on a bit. But then the end of the issue just freaking brings you right back in again. Looking forward to the fourth one with Constantine showing up. I think they're sitting at some diner. I guess the magic users have caught up to her, and then her friend there that's trying to help her out. They're all there, and then kind of a voice comes out of the blue. I guess Zatanna put in a call to Constantine to find out what's going on, and nobody likes it when Constantine shows up. And I also
No,
think that's great.
that's true. You're like, shit. It's not good if he's taking interest in what's happening with you. You know what I mean? Like this thing was crazy. This weird demented looking rabbit thing. I mean, I like Javier Rodriguez's art. I'm a fan, and it definitely is different type of style. I think it fits this book well, though, given that
Yeah.
like some of the things that we're seeing in this issue, it's very it kind of lends itself to like the trippy kind of moments that we get in this issue. And like you said, I think the story is finally really coming together in the middle of this series. And I'm looking forward to what comes next as well. I thought this was a solid issue. It's nice to know essentially that she's now aware that she's had magic. And the whole Zetera thing, her father being a guy who, got somewhat corrupted by dark magic and tried to steal other people's magic and all that kind of stuff. I feel like that's territory that we've heard about stuff about Zetera before. Like it kind of tracks. It doesn't seem like it's an out of character thing for her father, right? So I kind of liked I liked how we got here, like the journey that we took to get to this point in this story. I didn't know exactly where we were going at the start of this series, but now it's coming together quite well, I think, actually, now that we're talking about it. So good stuff. So I'm looking forward to the I think it's a 5-issue series, is #3. So yeah, good stuff. What'd you give this, Chris?
It's 3.75.
You know what? I'm gonna go 4. I'm gonna go 4 on this. I was thinking about 3.75, but I did quite like this issue. I'm realizing from talking about it here, so I'll give it a 4 out of 5. Next up, we got Gromit's #4 here. Rick Remender skateboard series. Brian Posehn. What'd you think?
Yeah, I kind of just jumped in this one here. I didn't read any of the earlier issues. And like I say, it's like the kind of the slice of life of a certain time period. I think this is a little after my time period. The only thing I remember of skaters when I was in school, they're all posers, so I don't have these great feelings about skaters. But I guess these are the true skaters. I guess they live this rough life, and so there's a few things there that ring true. Especially when that kid has a party, and then invites one of her friends over, and then the friend brings the whole football team in, and that just causes trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And him with his buddy there that's not listening to him.
Yeah.
That's okay. And it's too bad for this kid. It seems like things were starting to go his way, and then now his dad wants to take him out to Arizona. So it's good stuff.
Which I'm pretty sure like that's the Rick Remender character, that one. That's Rick, I believe, right? So like that makes sense because Rick's somebody I feel like in a lot of his writing has talked about a lot of like father issues. So if that is that character, if that's coming from a place where like, you know what I mean, he's had issues with his dad or whatever. But I get it from the sense like apparently his dad was an alcoholic and he got clean in this, and then like, but every time it feels like he's enjoying the place too much or there's shit going on in his life, he'll just get up and move, and obviously that's not working for him now that he actually has a friend group that he enjoys and people that are interested in similar things that he's interested in, like with the whole skateboarding and everything else. So yeah, like you said, that's like an interesting moment there as a teenager, kind of like angsty teenager moment, and he's not getting any help from his friends, and that's, or his friend, let's say the main guy, Brian or whatever, Brian Posehn's character in this. So yeah, no, it's interesting. Like you said, I just like having spending time in this world with these characters and this slice of life stuff. It's been pretty fun in that regard. It's like it's a good series, and I like every time an issue comes out of this one. What'd you give this?
Now let's give it 3.5.
I'll go 3.75. I was gonna give it a 4, but I will say, like, I think compared to the events of some of the other issues, this one wasn't as good as those, but I still really enjoy this series. Again, it's only a 7-issue series. I hope they end up doing more. Anytime we spend in that world, I have a good time with it. Sacrificers number 11. We got a Rick Remender double shot here this week. What'd you think of this, Chris?
This one's okay. Just I think is this the end of an arc? Are they taking a break on this for a while? I thought I read something at the end there or not.
I think we're currently in the middle of an arc outside of the other main character, because this is the second issue of 3 that they're doing with this other artist, and then I think they're taking a break and we're coming back with the regular series artist.
Oh, okay. Well, anyways, but there's still a decent issue. It's following. This is that Sola, the princess, I guess.
Oh no, you're right. Yeah, I didn't read that. They're taking 3 months off after this to catch up with a 1-2 punch from Max and then Andre. Yeah, okay, sorry. So I guess they didn't get this last one out in time. I think originally the plan was for them to do the next issue and then take the time off. But I guess this artist isn't ready with the 3rd issue wrapping up this story.
This didn't seem like a planned ending. Looks like there's more going on. But either way, I guess you're following that princess. She's, just kind of slumming it with the people there. And, I guess another family is sort of taking her in. They go to some refugee camp there. And, these gods, they're all upset that they can't find this princess. And they've decreed that, there's going to be more sacrifices taken.
Yeah.
And, not very many people are happy about that. And they end up at that refugee camp. And they're just taking all the sacrifices in that, whatever, the pigeon family. They're losing their last kid. And I think they find out that the reason that all this stuff is going on is because of their kid to begin with. So there's a lot of stuff happening. And then there's that ooze or that goo that's going on that comes out of her at night. So that's another mystery that's sort of bubbling under, let's say. Yeah, so there's a lot of good things going on, and this series keeps on delivering.
Yeah, like you said, a lot of loose threads coming together here, connections being made between all the characters that we've been introduced to so far. The bird family there, they take another one of their kids after that main character, main bird character that we've been introduced to was taken and thought dead. And you're right, that is the reason why they're lashing out like this now, as a result of him going off and killing some of the other gods. Now that he's got the power, right? He's got that whole power that he had, and he went into a portal at the end of the last couple of issues before this, and now this sun god daughter has been out on her own, dealing with all this. But she's getting to see how the people get terrorized as a result of the deeds by her people, right? So like she's actually seeing first and foremost now what is happening to the common people, like, of this world, like, that aren't gods, right? So I think she's gonna definitely look at things a little differently by the time, if she ever makes it back, right? So great stuff. I really enjoy this story. I thought they've brought in a great backup artist to the main regular series artist to do these issues, and I am saddened to learn that it's going to be 3 months. I thought it was going to be a break after this next issue, concluding her story. But I guess that, like Chris said, I just looked at the back and that's what he said. So I can't wait for it to get back. I really like this series. So what'd you give this?
I give it 3.75.
I'll go 4 on this one, 4 out of 5 this week. Maybe even 4.25. I really like this story. Next up, we got Fantastic Four number 24.
Yeah, was this a follow-up to the last one where they're getting attacked by these, whatever, these microscopic aliens or atom aliens?
Yeah.
And I guess they found a live one there, and this live one sort of, you kind of get their history from whatever planet they're coming from. They were stealing energy from the sun to shoot themselves out. And, I guess this, I don't know even what this alien, I don't know what to call that thing. It sort of has its own agenda there, and it wants to live forever. And I think it overtakes, I guess they have some sort of particle accelerator underneath there. And they shoot them, it takes control of that and shoots itself out there into space. And then I suppose as they travel in space, time gets distorted. And Reed Richards kind of makes his way out there and does some things to to talk to the whatever to this alien, and he goes, "Oh, I tell you, we're sending this out to the edge of space or something like that, where time's going to be slow going on and everything's going to collapse." And from whatever happens here, I don't know what they're trying to reference here, but basically the hand of God comes down, and and I think even as he's doing that, Reed Richards in his sort of stupor, calls out Franklin's name. So I don't know what they're kind of inferring there. And then he just sort of pops up at the end, and now they have like an alien baby or something. Kind of wacky stuff, but a lot of it sort of tracked. It was an interesting story about, I guess, time, using your resources and things like that. A bit of a heady story, let's say.
Boring. That's all I gotta say about this one. This wasn't my favorite one. I mean, that's a good thing about this series, though. He does these little 1 or 2 issue type stories that are very, science related type missions. And, whether one's good or not, you after an issue or 2, you move on to the next one, right? This was okay. I felt like this issue is putting me to sleep, or maybe it was because I was falling asleep while reading this one the other day.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll blame that. But for me, it was just an okay issue. This one, this 2-parter that they did.
Yeah, but that kind of hand of God trying to save you at the end, that's like I don't know, is that like a comic crutch there or something? He was dead basically.
I don't know.
And then he just pops in out of nowhere. Oh, I knew you'd find a way back. You didn't find anything.
Right. Yeah.
So maybe that'll play into some story in the future. I don't know. That just seems to be very out of sync for these stories. Usually everything is sort of plausible.
Yeah. What'd you give this?
I'll give this 3.5.
I'll go 3.25 on this one.
Next Gomez is being wasted on this, though.
Yes, absolutely. I agree there. Actually, I was meant to mention that, like, following up on what you said last time. Absolutely, that's the case here. He's being misused on this. I don't know who the editor is of this book, but you need to like shuffle this guy onto something better, because you know what I mean? Like, unless this is like his dream project, then okay, whatever. But I agree. I think would be much better suited on something else. Like, put him on one of the X books. What are you doing? Like, right?
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
Yeah. Anyways, X-Men number 3. Speaking of the X books, we're in the X-Men corner here, Chris. X-Men number 3. Got this Rogue J. Scott Campbell cover here.
I think hopefully mine's waiting for me at the store.
Okay, what'd you think of this?
This one was okay. I did like the stuff with Scott Summers there at the diner.
Yeah.
And he's just giving shit to the police, like they're trying to give him trouble. And he's like, look, guys, what I did to you was a favor, like, especially when he lays out what they did to him, you kind of forget about that stuff. I was ponied up on some fake trial. My eyes were sewn shut, and all I wanted was this here, and I thought that was pretty good stuff. And then I don't know, the stuff with what was going on in the base, whatever, take it or leave it. I didn't think that was such a big deal, but the stuff with Scott, I really enjoyed that part. But I don't know if that's enough to make it a good comic, though. But it was okay.
I'm still enjoying it, but I am concerned about what will happen when Stegman leaves this title, because I think that the stories that they're telling are fine so far in this series, and the team is great. But the art is definitely the thing I think that's been the best out of everything happening in this book. And I disagreed. That's one you also said you felt like he was miscast in terms of an artist on this book. I disagree with that. I actually really like him on this book, but I will say, will these stories be enough, even with this great team, with another artist, if they're not going to have somebody like a Stegman on this series moving forward after the first arc, right? So we'll see, because I think it's a great team too, and I do like Jed McKay. So it's got a lot going on for it, but you would think with all those things going on with it, it would be better than it is, right? That's what I'll say about this, and that's not to say it's bad. I just think it could be a lot better. So I hope this is like a slow build of sorts. And he's, because he's trying to establish, I guess, the new status quo of what's happening in this book. They have had some missions, let's say, throughout the first couple of issues, but nothing substantial to speak of really as of yet, right? So, we'll see how it all comes together down the line. But, we'll see. This new character is cool, though. I think she's new, this character. I mean, I'm not familiar with her. That was really neat when she kind of came. Was her name Temperament or something like that?
Temper, yeah. She kind of take. That's the thing too. There's a lot of characters here. I have no idea sort of what their power sets are. Even what she kind of controls heat and cold. I don't know.
Also, what's the deal with him at the end there? Is he having like a mental breakdown, or like what's happening with him at the end here, Scott? He like went to the
Oh yeah,
bathroom.
when he goes into the washroom, he's like, "Oh, I gotta hold it together." I don't know. We'll see what's happening with that.
Yeah, because like, yeah, that was a tense moment with him and the cops, but I don't know if that was him just reacting to like, oh man, like I'm doing such a shitty job of leading this team.
Yeah,
I also like though in that conversation how they connected the other X books going on right now because he's like he references the fact that he has the X Factor team, this government. And he's like, you guys are running that X
yeah,
Factor team, and I know my brother's running that team, and guess what? My brother ate me or whatever. You know what I
yeah,
mean? He basically just calls him a bum. He's just like, yeah, listen, bud, like my brother sucks. I'm way better. Like, you know,
yeah.
I thought that was pretty good how they just slipped that in, how he's referencing the other, events of the books, right? So that was cool. What'd you give this?
I'll give it a 3.5.
3.75 out of 5 for me. Yeah. X Force number 2. This is, I think, my last issue that I've pre-ordered of this one. What'd you think?
Yeah, I'm not digging the whole vibe of this comic there, where they're trying to track down all
No.
these events here. Don't they sneak into Wakanda here and have to try and take care of some business? And of course they do. And then the Wakanda's after us. Hey, if you ever come here again, you can't come in here, unannounced. And we only have a certain amount of time to do all this stuff. It's a decent idea, I guess, but I don't know if that's enough to freaking run this whole series. You need something more going on.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I'm glad this is my last issue that I pre-ordered this one. I'm dropping this. I'm not even probably going to continue reading this. Here's the problem with this book for me. This is like a science X-Force of some sort, this team. I don't know why. Like, this is usually they do have like a science team involved with the X-Men stuff, but to put that in the X-Force title goes against like everything the X-Force titles
Yeah.
normally are. So, I mean, clearly that's a choice that they've went with for this series, but it's not one that I'm gonna sign up for. So I'm out on.
They got to put Gomez on this title and make it the spicy X-Men. That's about it. Boom. There.
Yeah,
Now you got a winner on your hands.
yeah, there you go. Hey guys, he's for hire as an editor, Chris from Comic Shop. Yeah, that'd be hilarious. All right, guys, this is how I see it. You bring
That's it.
Gomez on this book, spice it up, forget about the
Yeah.
science crap.
Yeah. He's going to just throw that ball, throw it in the garbage. I mean, they just hang out at a bar, and then see what happens.
I like it. I like it, Chris. I like your way of thinking. You need to next time you go to the con, you need to like talk to some of these guys at the
Yeah,
table.
I got Dr. Stegman there. Hey, buddy, I know your head's good, but not so much for this book. But let me tell you, let me how you make it better. Spicy.
You're being misused in that title, man. I know X-Men sounds a lot, but they need to get you off that book and onto something better. Do you have representation?
Let me tell you, I work on this little show here you might not have heard of.
Yeah, man, you need to get in there. I think people need to get it together. All right, Chris, what'd you give this book?
uh, I gotta give it 3.25 because they give other books I like a lot more 3.5.
Yeah, you're reading my mind here. We're in sync on a lot of these ratings. Yeah. 3.25 as well, just because I wasn't as interested in this book. It looked good and it was fine, but yeah, not very interested in this one. So I have this here, but I didn't actually read this one because this was like the X block. I didn't read this one actually. NYX number 2, Chris. What'd you think?
I read this, before I read, I heard a lot of bad things about this. And but I gave it a read anyway, and I don't think it was that bad. It's following a lot of Laura Kenny stuff here. I thought the art was decent in here. There's like a whole bunch of mutants that are being kidnapped, and she's trying to get to the bottom of this, and she's trying to do it on her own. And then she goes undercover as Scratch. I guess that's supposed to be a little nod to Patch there. And then even as she's undercover, she runs into I think she runs into Marvel girl, no, Miss Marvel, and then she runs into some other people, and she kind of gives me old, hey, I'm undercover. And then at the end, the villain turns out to be, I think, Mojo from whatever Mojo World, and I think fucking he kicks her ass, and she gets freaking, she has to jump out of the window, her skin's all burned off, and she kind of has to pull a hasty retreat. And then she's kind of, while her wounds are healing, she's thinking, I think I shouldn't have done this on my own. So I guess it's a bit of a learning thing. And she might be putting together a team. I guess that's what it's going to be, And at the end, I don't know why they show her dancing there, but with a bunch of other Mutants.
Because they're
It
young
wasn't the
mutants
greatest,
in New
but I don't
York.
think it was the worst.
They're young mutants in New York, Chris. That's why. They like
Yeah, just like what Sex in the City, but mutants.
Yeah, they like to go dancing right after a
I
hard
just got
day,
whooped. Let me go. Put my team together. I'll meet them at the dance club.
right? They need to blow off some steam, Chris. That's what I do when I need to blow off some steam.
Yeah, me too.
Bro, if you look like she does and you live in New York and you're a mutant, why not?
That's it.
What'd you
But it
give?
wasn't that bad. I'll give it a 3.5.
Okay. And then finally here, Amazing Spider-Man number 56, Chris, this week.
Nice
An
cover
interesting,
there. Back to our boy there, JR.
yeah.
But I
Interesting.
gotta say, I did like seeing him back again after all that craziness of the whatever the goblin. I wish they referenced this back. You know, this kind of just takes you back to where Spider-Man was before that goblin story, and it was a welcome change. This beginning was freaking baloney. I don't know why they waste 10 pages on this. Oh, freaking whatever lions kill their young to maintain the pride. I watched a lot of freaking National Geographic. I watched a lot of Mutual of Omaha, Wild Kingdom when I was a kid. So you know none of that was a surprise to me. Maybe the new audience here might not realize that's what lions do.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, when you get onto the story, I thought it was pretty decent. I liked it. I'm glad this was an oversized issue, and this story wasn't spread over 5 issues, because if it was, I would have hated it. But
Agreed.
I think there's like three big things going on in this story, and and they all worked out. There's a bit of a twist in there. When Spider-Man talks to what Blue Beetle, or not Blue Beetle, is this just the Beetle or Janice, anyways?
Yeah.
They kind of give you a little swerve that Spider-Man took her out and sent her to jail, but basically, the swerve at the end is that he gets her to kind of turn evidence on Tombstone. I thought that was a nice twist. And then there's the second story about how that kind of came to fruition. You get to see She-Hulk in there with the same artist from the She-Hulk comic. I enjoyed that. And then, of course, they had to throw in a story about Paul. I don't know how whatever Zeb Wells got this by the editors. Okay, I got all this good stuff going on. Hey, I'm going to do the story about Paul. Who cares about that? Like, get that story out of there.
I actually
But
don't think he wrote that one. I don't think he wrote that Paul
wow,
story.
whoever put it in there, like, what? Why would we need a story about Paul, and is just stuck in here? But
Agreed.
the other stuff I thought was good, and I like the pacing of the 2 or 3 stories. Not too bad. I'll take it.
Yeah, agreed. I enjoyed this enough. I think, I'm not going to look at it from the sense like, oh, this is one of those legacy issues. What kind of story is this that they're telling in this one? But no, I think like you said, I think I would be upset if they kind of tried to spread this over an arc. The fact that this was there were some events that have happened in this long run by Zeb Wells that kind of tied itself up here in this issue. I thought was a good use of the oversized page count on this one. So I did like that. I do like Tombstone as a villain as well. So it was interesting to see where his story took him in this. The backup stories were fine. They were whatever. But I mean, I think the highlight of the issue, like you said, is the return of JR writing this story, drawing this story along with Zeb Wells. And it looks like I think he's probably just trying to tie up any loose ends from his run or things that he wanted to address in the next few issues before we get him passing the title over finally, which you know what? Oh, yeah, this was written by Zeb Wells. You're right. I'm sorry, Chris. He did
Who
write
else
this.
is going to write a story about Paul? Nobody cares about Paul.
That's a good point. It's just normally he doesn't write the backups in these things. So obviously you're right, but who else would want to write a story about it? Fucking Paul. So there you go. What'd you give this, Chris?
As a Spider-Man comic, I'll give it a 4, but I think it deserves maybe a 3.75.
That's what I'm going with. 3.75 out of 5 for me for that one. All right. Big week. As I mentioned, that was our week of comics this week, the things that we read that we wanted to talk about. And Chris, what are you looking forward to checking out next week?
Okay, next week, I think I'm on my pull list at least was Ultimates 4, Venom War 2 Spider-Man, or Venom War Spider-Man 2, Batman 152, Absolute Power 3, Scarlet 4. I'll probably try and read Ivy 25, Birds of Prey 13. See what this Plastic Man's all about. That seems interesting.
Yeah,
The Venom War 2, see what's happening with Get Fury 5, and see what they're doing with the Marvel Zombies.
Oh yeah, you're gonna check that out. Yeah. I'm checking out that Plastic Man as well. Hopefully it's good. Looks interesting. But yeah, Absolute Power 3, Batman 152, Birds of Prey 13, Get Fury 5. Oh, this is also something we're checking out, Chris, there, if you come across it. The new Jeff Lemire written and drawn series, Minor Arcana, comes out next
Oh,
week.
yeah, maybe.
That's from Boom. I'm looking forward to that. Plastic Man No More, number 1, Scarlet, number 4. And What If Donald Duck Became Thor comes out next week as
Oh,
well,
I think I have that too with
the
the
Walt
wall.
Simonson homage
Yeah,
cover, which of course it's the lighting here. There you go. There it is.
yeah.
And then yeah, some things online I'll probably end up reading as well digitally. Like Chris mentioned, there's a Spider-Man Venom War book, which he loved but hated at the same time. I gotta definitely check that out. I gotta check out what my boy Greg Land is up to on that one. So how many weird poses that he's got going on. Our faces.
Gotta find the sword.
All right, Chris, that's going to do it for what we want to talk about this week. What was your favorite book of the week, my friend?
I think I might have to give it to Avengers and Avengers versus Alien, which came totally out of the blue.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I know it was the only book I gave a 5 to this week. And as I mentioned, I'm trying not to just hand these out like crazy, but I thought this was deserving of this book. It kind of, yeah, way better than it had to be, honestly, for a licensed comic. But when you got people of this caliber writing and drawing the book, it should be like you would.
Well, even still, like that's something they can definitely phone in. They know this is just like cross promotional baloney. They don't need to make anything crazy going on, but he freaking knocked it out of the park. It looks like it's something he wanted to do.
To your point, you could slap anybody on this book, and because it's an Aliens comic, the people that like Aliens or like Aliens comics are going to pick this up just based on that alone.
Yeah.
So you really don't need to put Jonathan Hickman on this book. You don't need to put Esad Ribic, who's like an artist who doesn't do too much that's really sought after, on this book. So yeah, you're right. There is going to be people that are going to pick this up purely based on that. So like, yeah, it was a really good book. It was a really good first issue. I think it's only like a 4-issue miniseries, so it's not like oversized. I mean, they're oversized issues, but it's not like he's going to stay his welcome on this one. So yeah, very interesting. This second kind of part of Hickman's career now, after he went and did Image stuff and has come back to Marvel, really interesting work he's doing. It's just, and a lot of things I would not see Hickman doing. Like it's a lot of like, it seems like paycheck jobs, but he's not phoning them in. Like Ultimate Spider-Man is great. You know what I mean? Like this was really good. Like Gods, not so much, but like, that seemed like more of like a Hickman like Image.
Yeah, I think that's something he had in the can already, and he just wanted it out there and want to get paid.
Yeah. So like, but yeah, I just that Doom one shot that he did was good. He's been doing some really good stuff lately, and it's for Marvel, which is weird because he went off and had major success with his creator-owned books, right? So it's very interesting to see him back doing stuff for Marvel, and at such a an interesting job too. I would never have seen him doing Ultimate Spider-Man. Would never see him doing an Aliens versus Avengers book. Right?
Yeah,
here we are. It's good stuff. Yeah, good stuff. So, all right, that's gonna do it for this week, guys. We will see you next week. As always, like and subscribe and all that good stuff. And I hope you enjoyed your comics this week. We'll see you in the next one. Later, guys. Thanks, Chris.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers.